The tragedy of Bob Gainey seems written in stone, a Hall of Fame player who became one of hockey's most controversial general managers. His time running the Montreal Canadiens was marked by the Scott Gomez trade, widely considered one of the worst deals in NHL history, a catastrophic swap that sent future star Ryan McDonagh to New York for an aging center who would score just 19 goals in 3 seasons before being bought out. But what if everything we think we know about Bob Gainey's executive legacy is completely wrong? What if his most criticized decisions were actually made by a man carrying an unimaginable burden, fighting battles most of us will never face? Bob Gainey was hockey royalty long before he ever sat in a front office. As a player, he was the perfect captain, winning 5 Stanley Cups with Montreal and earning a spot in the Hall of Fame. His mix of skill, leadership, and unshakable integrity made him a legend. When he moved into management in 2003, it seemed natural. Here was a man who understood winning, who knew what it took to build champions. The hockey world expected great things. Then came June 30th, 2009, the summer that would define his legacy in all the wrong ways. Montreal had just lost longtime captain Saku Koivu to free agency. Gainey needed to rebuild fast. His solution was bold and expensive. He traded away a package centered on defensive prospect Ryan McDonagh to acquire Scott Gomez from the New York Rangers. The plan was simple: get a proven center to anchor the top line, then surround him with new talent. Gainey's strategy seemed to work at first. After landing Gomez, he signed star forwards Mike Camilleri and Brian Gionta. Montreal looked transformed overnight, but that transformation came at a terrible cost. McDonagh was no ordinary prospect. He was the former Mr. Hockey Award winner, excelling at the University of Wisconsin. Many scouts loved him, but somehow the Canadiens decided he was expendable. If you appreciate stories that dig deeper than the headlines and reveal the human complexity behind sports decisions, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We explore the untold narratives that shape the games we love. The aftermath of the Gomez trade was brutal. Scott Gomez had one decent season in Montreal, helping the team reach the Eastern Conference Final in 2010. After that, his production collapsed completely. He scored just 7 goals in his second season, then only 2 goals in 38 games during his final year before Montreal bought out his massive contract. Meanwhile, Ryan McDonagh blossomed into everything the Canadiens hoped he wouldn't be. He became a dominant defenseman, served as Rangers captain, and won 2 Stanley Cups with Tampa Bay. In a cruel twist, he tormented Montreal during the 2014 Stanley Cup Final, recording 4 points in Game 1 alone. The trade haunted Montreal for years. Fans couldn't stop imagining what might have been. McDonagh paired with PK Subban, both drafted by the Canadiens, in 2007 could have been one of the league's best defensive duos. Instead, Montreal watched their former prospect become a star elsewhere. Years later, reports suggested the decision wasn't entirely Gainey's. Assistant GM Pierre Gauthier allegedly had strong negative feelings about McDonagh after watching him play, and those opinions may have influenced the trade, despite the scouting department loving the young defenseman. But Gainey's executive tenure wasn't all disasters. In fact, his next major decision proved he was capable of brilliant long-term thinking. By 2010, Montreal faced another difficult choice. They had 2 talented young goalies competing for the starting job. Carey Price was their prized 5th overall draft pick, the franchise's chosen future. Jaroslav Halak was the unheralded 9th-round selection who had worked his way up through pure determination. During the 2009-10 season, it looked like Halak had stolen Price's job. While Price struggled with a 13-25 record, Halak posted stellar numbers at 26-13-3. Then came the playoffs, where Halak delivered one of the most legendary goaltending performances in recent memory. As the 8th seed, Montreal wasn't supposed to compete with the league's elite teams, but Halak carried them to stunning upset victories over the President's trophy-winning Washington Capitals and defending champion Pittsburgh Penguins. Montreal went crazy for their unlikely hero. Fans called him Halak Jesus and wrote his name on stop signs across the city. An editorial cartoon even depicted him as a religious figure. When the playoff run ended, public opinion was clear. Jaroslav Halak had earned the right to be Montreal's #1 goalie. He was the hero who had delivered when it mattered most. Then came another shocking decision. On June 17, 2010, Montreal traded Jaroslav Halak to St. Louis for prospects Lars Eller and Ian Schultz. The reaction was immediate and furious. Fans felt betrayed. The trade was debated in the Canadian House of Commons. Future Prime Minister Justin Trudeau famously tweeted his outrage, asking how the team could trade their hero for magic beans. A farewell autograph session for Halak drew 5,000 people, showing how deeply he had connected with the city. This time, though, Montreal's management got it right. While Halak went on to have a solid NHL career, he never again reached the magical heights of that 2010 playoff run. Carey Price, given the full confidence of the organization, developed into a generational talent. In 2014-15, he delivered one of the greatest goaltending seasons in NHL history, winning the Vezina Trophy, Hart Trophy, Ted Lindsay Award, and Jennings Trophy. He became the cornerstone Montreal had always believed he could be. The contrast between these two major decisions is striking. The Gomez trade sacrificed future greatness for immediate help that didn't work out. The Price-Hallock choice protected long-term potential despite enormous public pressure. One decision looked foolish from day one and only got worse. The other seemed terrible at the time but proved to be genius. But to truly understand Bob Gainey during this period, we need to look beyond hockey transactions. We need to understand the personal crucible he was enduring while making these franchise-altering decisions. Because the most important battle of his life wasn't happening in boardrooms or on ice. It was happening in courtrooms and investigation offices, where he was fighting for something far more precious than any trade or draft pick. On December 8, 2006, Bob Gainey's world shattered. His 25-year-old daughter Laura was serving as crew on a tall ship called the Picton Castle when she was swept overboard by a massive wave during a fierce Atlantic storm. The Coast Guard launched an extensive search, but after 36 hours in brutal conditions, they called it off. Laura was gone. For Gainey, this was another devastating loss. His wife Kathy had died of brain cancer in 1995, leaving him to raise 4 children alone. Now he had lost a daughter too. But Laura's death was just the beginning of Gainey's ordeal. The initial investigation, conducted by maritime authorities in the Cook Islands, where the ship was registered, concluded that Laura was simply an unlucky victim who had violated safety procedures. They blamed her for her own death. Bob Gainey refused to accept this conclusion. In November 2007, he went on television and called the Cook Islands report a lie or cover-up. He argued that basic safety protocols like life jackets and harnesses should have been required during the storm. His public stand revealed the same integrity and refusal to back down that had defined his playing career. He wasn't seeking sympathy. He was demanding truth and accountability. His fight was vindicated when investigators uncovered that other crew members had been denied permission to wear safety harnesses, being told it would create a false sense of security. Even worse, the ship's captain had nearly been swept overboard from the same spot shortly before Laura was lost, and neither he nor his companion wore safety equipment. The new evidence led Canada's Transportation Safety Board to conduct its own thorough investigation. Their final report, released in October 2008, completely cleared Laura Gainey's name. It identified numerous preventable factors that contributed to the accident, including the decision to sail despite storm forecasts, poor communication, crew fatigue, and the failure to properly implement safety measures. The report called the tragedy so preventable and led to calls for industry-wide safety reforms. Gainey had won his fight for his daughter's legacy, but the victory was bittersweet. The battle had consumed nearly 3 years of his life, from December 2006 to October 2008. This timeline is crucial to understanding his professional decisions. The disastrous Scott Gomez trade happened in June 2009, just 8 months after Gainey's public vindication in the fight for Laura's memory. During this period of intense grief and public battle, sources later revealed that Gainey was letting Pierre do a lot of the work, referring to assistant GM Pierre Gauthier. The man making final decisions was operating under an unimaginable level of personal stress. He had just endured a multi-year international fight for his daughter's reputation while trying to run a professional hockey team. The cognitive load, emotional exhaustion, and sheer distraction of such a battle would impact any leader. This context completely reframes the Gomez trade. It wasn't just a bad hockey decision. It was a complex organizational failure that occurred while the decision-maker was dealing with unthinkable personal circumstances. The trade happened when Gainey was distracted and burdened, possibly over-delegating authority to a subordinate whose judgment may have been flawed. It's a reminder that leaders are human beings who face battles we never see. Bob Gainey's legacy as a general manager is not one of simple failure or success. It's the story of a leader whose brilliant hockey mind was capable of both remarkable foresight and stunning mistakes, all while he endured the deepest personal trials imaginable. He protected Carey Price's development despite enormous pressure, showing incredible long-term vision. He also made the Gomez trade during a period when he was fighting for his daughter's memory and dealing with grief most of us can't comprehend. Perhaps most importantly, Gainey's public fight for Laura shows the same character traits that made him a great captain. His refusal to accept injustice, his determination to find truth, and his willingness to use his platform for something greater than himself. He could have grieved privately, but instead, he fought publicly to ensure his daughter's death might prevent others. That fight led to real changes in maritime safety standards. What do you think about Bob Gainey's story and the hidden battles that leaders face while making public decisions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the human side of sports compelling, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines. Thanks for watching.